Have a great show, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you tomorrow, Hannity. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle. A stunning development concerning the potential fate of the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, tonight. Congressman Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan have just filed, wait for it, articles of impeachment against the man tasked with overseeing the Mueller probe. They'll be here exclusively to tell us why in just a bit. Plus, Raymond Arroyo will be here to expose the literal and figurative stars broken by a PC culture gone totally mad. A special Hollywood edition of our Seen and Unseen segment is ahead. You don't want to miss it. We also have some major stories to report about ICE and the threat from China. But first, Trump wins while the resistance spins. That's the focus of tonight's angle. To listen to the media in this country, you would think that these are the biggest stories in America.
As the fallout from Donald Trump's disastrous summit with Vladimir Putin continues, so does the Mueller investigation into possible Trump-Russia collusion.
There seemed to be some sort of expense system in place, the Trump organization, for things that needed to be fixed, like a Stormy Daniels.
That conversation with Donald Trump that Michael Cohen secretly recorded is officially no longer a secret.
I think the big story here is the fact that you now have Michael Cohen has now flipped on Donald Trump.
But those stories are nothing more than meaningless stand-ins, distractions from the most important story of the day. And what is it? America's winning again because we have a president with guts. On defense, on manufacturing, our culture, trade. Few presidents have fought the way Trump has. Even his former GOP foes have had to concede the obvious. Here's Marco Rubio on Trump's interactions with China.
On a broader scale, I don't know of any administration that's confronted China's cheating more than this administration has, to be fair.
Trump has steadfastly refused to cede America's preeminence to the communist regime of China. But remember, China already has a $23.2 trillion economy, which is almost $4 trillion more than our own. But with tough tariffs and blunt talk, he has now brought China to the negotiating table. That is a very good thing. And just today, the president met with EU Commission President to discuss trade. After Trump boosted tariffs on certain EU goods to create a fair situation for American manufacturers, the EU retaliated with tariffs of its own. But today, they were all singing a different tune.
We agreed today, first of all, to work together towards zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, and zero subsidies on non-auto industrial goods. We will also work to reduce barriers and increase trade in services, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, medical products, as well as soybeans. It will also make trade fairer and more reciprocal.
When I was invited by the president to the White House, I had one intention. I had the intention to make a deal today, and we made a deal today.
Why haven't any of these other presidents done what Trump did? They didn't want to, or they didn't have the brain power to do it, or they didn't have the courage to do it. But today, the market responded, closing at its highest level since January. And this kind of advance wouldn't have been possible if Trump had not raised the issue and raised the ante with the EU all along. The market is soaring. Wages are beginning, ever so slowly, to rise. In fact, 213,000 jobs have been added here just last month due to Trump's policies. GDP growth is strong with an expected huge number this Friday. Bottom line, it is a great time to be an American, someone who's working, who wants a job. And to top it all off, the president's Hire American initiative has started to produce results. There was a 41% increase in denials of high-skilled H-1B visa applicants between the third and fourth quarter. That helps American citizens over foreign workers in the job market. It's about time. And the president is doing all of this while battling the deep state, the unfair media, of course, all the international bureaucrats we've come to know and love, and establishment politicians here in Washington. And there are some congressmen who, despite all this great news, just refuse to get the memo that, the Bush era is over.
I don't support tariffs. I think tariffs are taxes, and I think there are better tools that we can use to hold abusers of trade laws and countries that perpetuate unfair trade practices. I think there are better tools to use to get them to play fairly.
I have a question. If those magic tools were out there, why weren't they used before? But what tools? I was looking at the toolbox. What are they? And let's remember what some other experts in Congress were recently saying about the tariffs.
A wildly swung bat that is hitting our closest allies in a way that harms our national security, harms our chances at better trade deals.
I just think there's so much collateral damage. I think it's a very risky and dangerous strategy.
This is an abuse of presidential authority. It's an abuse of presidential authority.
Well, once again, guess what? They're wrong. Trump stood for America with a tool that every president has used in one form or another, and our economic competitors ended up doing the thing that he predicted they'd do. They came to the table, they started listening, and they made concessions. More are coming, by the way. So rather than taking potshots at the president, Republicans should be celebrating and promoting this approach to trade and the economy, the Trump agenda. It's also their clearest path to victory in the midterms. Which reminds me, by the way, a word of caution for this president at the same time. We got to talk straight here with all the good news, also a word of caution. Every time, Mr. President, you comment on the latest Michael Cohen tape, or every time you spar with lowlifes like Brennan or Avenatti or any of them, I think what you do sometimes, you end up giving oxygen to the stories advanced by your political opponents to distract from the most important story. That's America's economic resurgence and the restoration of our place in the world. So Donald Trump should be taking a victory lap almost every week in a different way, shape, or form. Things are awesome right now. The more the president and his party focus on that story, the more the Stormy, Mueller, Michael Cohen sideshow is diminished. The media attempt to distract voters from the lived experience of the Trump economy. But I'm telling you, it's not working. My radio listeners tell me every day, we don't care about these stories. What's in my bottom line? Trump's approval, by the way, today at 48%, according to a new American Barometer poll. The voters know reality, and they're tuning out the rest of this stuff. It's kind of white noise, background noise to them. They can see the impact of this presidency every day. They can feel it in their pocketbooks. They can feel it in their lives. And that's the angle. Joining me now for reaction is Dan Bongino, host of the Dan Bongino Show podcast. Dave Bossie, former deputy campaign manager of President Trump's campaign and co-author of Let Trump Be Trump. And, of course, Richard Goodstein, a Democratic strategist and former advisor to Bill and Hillary Clinton. Great to have all of you on. Richard, your reaction.
Well, first, for your viewers, there were two more recent polls. One, the Quinnipiac poll that had the president's approval at 38, and the Marist poll that had it at 39. Worse, in the Quinnipiac poll, the question was, does the president stand up for U.S. interests? 54% said no. 41% said yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
What do you I mean?
What I'm saying is,
Richard, hold on. I just have a simple question for you.
Yeah.
You, I know you're here and you're going to say Trump sucks.
No.
Trump sucks.
No.
I mean, you're going to say that, but listen for a second. You see him up there with the EU commissioner, right? You guys were out there saying this thing was going to tank, that the tariffs were going to tank things. He stood up there with the EU commissioner, and they stood together, and they said, we're going to work together, we're going to lower tariffs. That was a victory. And for anyone, Democrat or Republican or independent, to claim anything other than that was a president standing up for America is false and fraudulent. So I hope you're not about to do that on this show tonight. Yeah, I don't care about your Quinnipiac.
It's a victory in the same way that him standing with Kim in North Korea and saying we have denuclearized.
The EU is Kim?
Well, no, I'm saying it's empty. Just like the Kim deal was empty. This is a promise to talk about promising.
No, they've already made concessions on soybeans. Yes, they did. It was announced. Well, Dave Bossie, you got that wrong.
Well, I don't think so.
This president campaigned as an American first president. That is what he has done. He's done it on trade. He's done it on foreign policy. He's done it on the economy. This president has decided, I'm going to take on these unfair tariffs and these bad trade deals which have been on America for the last 30 or 40 years after I build a strong economy. And that's what we have. This president, unlike any president in recent past, has done America first and America only, and he stood tall in the world doing it.
Richard, you're going to get another chance to come back at me because I came at you pretty hard. But Dan Bongino, Friday's GDP, that number, you get the sense it's going to be very high. 4% plus. We haven't had a 4. Anyone know on this table the last time we had a 4% GDP?
Yeah, Obama 2014.
Yeah, okay, 4% GDP. It was projected that he was going to tank the economy. Mark Cuban, all these people predicting economic Armageddon under Donald Trump. Dan Bongino. To hear people claim that this president is asleep at the wheel, he's playing a reality game here, he doesn't know what he's doing, is preposterous. Look at what happened today, and we're going to have more news on China, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah, I love it, Laura. Keep underestimating them, folks. Richard, you too. It's working so well for you, isn't it? Didn't you give him a 0% chance of winning the Washington Post, Donald Trump, before the election? I remember that Washington Post headline, by the way. Hey, listen, folks, here's the deal. New rules, okay? New rules. The Democrats for 8 years attacked us with the most vicious identity politics known to man. Nobody gives a crap about Michael Cohen. Nobody gives a damn about this president's personal behavior. Here's the new rules. Now it's about winning. It's about winning on taxes. It's about winning on your business. It's about winning on a pro-life judge agenda, saving infants in the womb. It's about saving your health care. It's about saving the education system. It's about doing the right thing for once with this government. You want to focus on a tape recording of a sleazy lawyer who taped this client? You go right ahead, knock it out. We'll be looking at a landslide in 2020, but make no mistake, the new rules are here. It's about winning. And again, one more thing, for all the never-Trumpers out there, oh, we're sacrificing our principles here. No, BS. This is the first president since Reagan actually in the White House fighting for our principles. So spare me the crap moral lectures. Save it for someone who gives a damn, and it ain't me.
Yeah, when I hear Paul Ryan talking about, I'm for other tools. I'm sorry, I had to burst out. What is he talking about? This Kempian idea that there are other tools, like Reagan and Bush and Clinton and Obama didn't talk to the Europeans about having better trade. They did. They talked and talked and got nowhere.
Donald Trump's policies were going to cause the sky to fall, us to have a recession, and us to go to war across this globe. None of those things have happened. That's what the Democrat Party stands for. The negativity, the hate. They hate this president more than they love this country.
They despise him, Richard.
Couple things. Yeah. First, I give Trump credit for going after the Chinese who've been getting away with murder. No question about it. But, for example, they're getting away with murder on aluminum, for example. But why put tariffs on the EU, Canada, Mexico, countries that are not responsible for this? Okay, so it's just a little misplaced.
But that's we can do trade for an hour.
But here's why I think his numbers are dipping below 40. Truthful hyperbole doesn't work. You can't say to the public would and the next day wouldn't and expect that everybody's going to fall for it. People are now getting wise to it.
I didn't think that was handled well.
You can't say, I didn't have an affair with these people, and then it comes out on tape that you did. You just can't get away with it.
Well, first of all, we do know that Bill Clinton said a lot of things, ended up not being true. He also went out as one of the most popular presidents in the 1990s. So Republicans overplayed their hand on the Clinton impeachment. Well, David Bossie and I were there then. We were part of that deal, right? But
I remember.
But the American people, they said, look, the economy's great. He worked together with Gingrich. Looked like things were welfare reform. They actually accomplished stuff. So I agree. If that's all there was, all that chaos, then I think Richard would have a point. He is right, Dave Bossie, that look, the independents, 7 points down, Republicans. People who identify themselves as Republicans, shrinking. Poll came out tonight. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. Numbers are way down for Trump, not where he wants them to be. So that's not good. So
but
you've got to not get distracted on this other stuff.
I totally agree with you. However, these are polls based on minutes and hundreds of hours of anti-Trump media, the media bias that is pervasive across the newspapers and televisions that the American people consume every day. That's why the president goes straight to the American people and tries to speak directly to them, whether it's using Twitter or speaking directly to them like he did today in the Rose Garden. But this is what he is up against. He's up against the Hillary Clinton, who will not accept defeat, right? Didn't accept the results of the election nearly 2 years later, or the Democrat Party, who hates them and wants to delegitimize them.
A lot of Republicans don't like them either. They hate these tariffs because they're future law. You know what I'm going to call a lot of these people? The Corker doesn't need the money. He's rich. But there are a lot of these other guys. Future lobbyist Ryan. Future lobbyist Flake. Sorry. I mean, it might be uncharitable, but I've imagined they'll be doing some lobbying. That's my sense. Bongino, I want you to listen to an exchange. SecDef Mike Pompeo, I always call him Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was on Capitol Hill. He was grilled by the Senate. Watch this exchange.
How do I know the difference between a presidential statement that is not a policy and a statement that is?
Senator, here's what you should look at. Compare the following. Barack Obama speaking tough on Russia and doing nothing. Those were
true.
It is true.
I understand you want to rewrite the Obama policy on Russia, but that's simply
okay.
not true. He organized all of Europe and all of the world.
Let's go. The man said he would have more flexibility after.
I'm not listening. My question isn't about. I know you want to turn constantly.
I just want to look at facts and policy,
Obama.
Senator.
At that point, Chris Murphy, Dan, kind of gave up. He's like, can I buy a vowel? I mean, this guy's actually fighting back. Your reaction. They're trying to distract. You know, the Putin owns Trump. Trump just giving it all the way to Moscow. I mean, it just seems Mickey Mouse to me. I'm not saying the Trump administration has handled everything right. I think they did not handle the post-Helsinki right. I don't think that. I would have just said, look, I want a better relationship with Putin. I want a better relationship. Put me on a cross. That's what I want. I would have said that. I wouldn't have apologized. I wouldn't have done any of that stuff. I wouldn't have changed the would. I wouldn't have done that. Nevertheless, it looks like Penny Ante stuff up there on Capitol Hill. Most people, their wallets are getting thicker.
Yeah, but Laura, you know, what's interesting about this is the Trump administration isn't saying they handled everything right. He came out the next day, he corrected it, he made a course correction. And I asked the American people candidly, it's an honest question. Do you want a president under Barack Obama who was honestly weak and then weak in action? Or do you want a president like President Trump who goes out again, he talks candidly, he doesn't always use a teleprompter, sometimes that requires him to dial a few things back, which he has, but then who acts in a strong pro-America fashion? What's your choice? I mean, is this a serious choice? Obama talked weak, acted weak, and basically subverted American values on the international stage. Now you have a guy who, all right, so he has to correct some things once in a while. That's fine. Look at what he's actually doing. That's what should matter. And, you know, I just, this is all showmanship up on Capitol Hill. That was ridiculous. I watched that whole thing today.
Yeah, Richard, the Dow is up 38% since the election. S&P is up 33%. NASDAQ's up 52.7%. Don't you wish you bought the futures back?
One final
Russell
thing,
2000, 41%.
As regards weakness,
winning.
As regards weakness, to say that
look at those
a
numbers.
former FBI, a former KGB head, Putin, gets more deference than our intelligence community, that's weak. Sorry. That's not projecting weakness. That's inviting people, that's inviting other corrupt governments to take a run at us. I'm sorry.
Do you know what the size of the Russian economy is?
I know it's 30th in the world. I know it's nothing.
It's right. But what you guys are all worked up on it, like we're like
Russia.
We're like
Russia
he's
all
wearing
the time.
he's wearing underwear though, the hammer and sickle on it or something. It's just he wants to get along with Russia because he thinks we're going to get something for Israel, in Syria, in North Korea, and we need Russia's help to triangulate against China. Yeah. We need it. That's where we need Russia.
This Quinnipiac poll says that people think he's doing this with Putin because they think the Russians have
That's because of what the Democrats have been feeding the American people, lie after lie, night after night.
We'll find out. Yes. We will find out when Mueller's done. We will. I really think we will.
All right. Well, you guys, fantastic segment. And I just said to Richard, I love his suit tonight. Isn't that a beautiful suit? Look at his eyes, blue tie. Oh, you look fine, you other two. House Republicans, you all look great tonight. House Republicans have officially filed, get this, articles of impeachment against Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Gulp. The two congressmen leading the charge, Meadows and Jordan, join me exclusively. What comes next? You'll find out. The battle between House Republicans and the Justice Department over the Russia probe is rapidly intensifying this evening. A group of Republican congressmen have filed articles of impeachment against Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein, arguing that the DOJ has not complied with 9 months of oversight requests for documents tied to the investigation. Joining us now exclusively to tell us what's next, Congressman Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, who are spearheading the effort. We're also joined by Fox News anchor and author of the new fantastic book, big bestseller, The Russia Hoax, Greg Jarrett. Great to see all of you. Congrats, Greg, on the book.
Thank you.
Great to have you on. Congressman Meadows, let's start with you. What are you accusing Rod Rosenstein of specifically?
Well, really, for 9 months, we've asked for documents, and that's all we want are the documents. And what we found is not only have subpoenas been ignored, but information has been hidden. The efforts have been stonewalled. And I guess for us, it's all about transparency so the American people can judge for themselves. And so, they may be able to ignore Congress, but they can't ignore the American people.
This is what Andy McCarthy wrote in National Review. He said, Rosenstein and Chris Wray, FBI director, work for Trump. They're not Obama holdovers, they're Trump appointees. If they're defying Congress, it's because the president is permitting them to do so. The president is empowered to give his subordinates a direct order to comply with congressional demands and to fire them immediately if they fail to do so. He's kind of looking down on this idea.
Yeah,
Congressman.
We've sent a letter to the president, Mark, myself, and Congressman DeSantis saying, declassify the information, get us all the information.
What is he? Have you ever spoken to him about this? Why won't he declassify these?
We sent the letter several weeks ago, but the bottom line is we have sent numerous letters to Rod Rosenstein they haven't complied with. 2 subpoenas they haven't complied with. We've caught the Department of Justice hiding information, redacting information that they should not have redacted. We know that Rod Rosenstein threatened House Committee Intel staffers, threatened them, chilling impact when they were trying to do their job, our job of doing the constitutional oversight we're supposed to do. And we all know what the Justice Department did with the dossier. Never forget, Rod Rosenstein signed the 3rd renewal, signed that, which was based on the dossier, which we know parts of it came from Bruce Orr, high-ranking official, through his wife Nellie, the whole ordeal. So we're tired of the Justice Department giving us the finger and not giving us the information we're entitled to do our constitutional duty. More importantly, the American people are sick of it. That's why we filed the resolution.
In just a moment, I'm going to ask you about what House leadership, including outgoing House Speaker Paul Ryan, is saying about all of this. But Greg Sherritt, I want to go to you. Greg, this is what happened on Capitol Hill just recently when Congressman Jordan was trying to question Rod Rosenstein. Let's watch.
Mr. Rosenstein, why are you keeping information from Congress?
Congressman, I am not keeping any information from Congress that it's appropriate.
In a few minutes, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the House of Representatives is going to say something different.
I don't agree with you, Congressman. I don't believe that's what they're going to say, and if they do, they'll be mistaken.
I disagree, but I think
no love lost between the Republicans on Capitol Hill and Rosenstein. Greg, what's going on? Do you think this idea of an impeachment vote, if they can get one, is a good idea?
Absolutely. Rosenstein has treated Congress with nothing but contempt and should be held in contempt and impeached if appropriate. This is a guy who has been covering up from the very beginning for 9 long months the origins of the Trump-Russia hoax. As I argue in my book, he and others never had any evidence of collusion. There was no evidence of crimes or intelligence to justify a counterintelligence probe. Rosenstein is the guy who put his signature on a document to renew the wiretap warrant application. And he knew that that was a fabricated, phony document. He didn't present new evidence as the law demands. And he vouched for its authenticity when he knew it was unverified and fabricated. And that is a fraud on the court and abuse of power.
Mark Meadows, it's been 122 years since a member of the executive branch has been impeached. It's a long time.
That is a long time.
I mean, not obviously not talking about the president, but an executive branch employee other than the president. Paul Ryan doesn't strike me as the kind of guy, on his way out, long goodbye from Paul Ryan, who would be keen on this. How do you get a vote on impeachment without getting Paul Ryan's nod here?
Well, certainly we hope that it doesn't have to come to that. Obviously, this is the first step tonight, but it doesn't require consent from the Speaker. It's a privileged motion, so what we put in today was non-privileged. It goes in, gets referred to the Judiciary Committee, but starting tomorrow, we can bring it up as a privileged motion.
What does that mean for people who don't understand
Yeah, so, and I'm glad you asked, because it really means that it would require a vote on the House floor within 2 days, and that's something that any member of Congress, Jim or I, can do. And quite frankly, it's either we hold them in contempt or we get the documents or we impeach them. And the only thing that we have control over is the ability to bring impeachment straight to the floor.
Congressman Jordan, any concern that this will divide the GOP before the midterm elections? I mean, the Freedom Caucus has kind of a interesting relationship with the with the most of Congress, and it's not a necessarily positive one at times. I mean, I'm with you on most of the issues, but a lot of the Republicans are like, oh my God, the Freedom Caucus. Every time they hear Freedom Caucus, they're like this.
Yeah, we don't get that back home. By the way.
You don't know. Back home, they love what you're doing.
It doesn't divide the Republican voters across this country. Doesn't divide.
So you don't care who you offend on Capitol Hill.
We care about doing the right thing. It might have been 120 years since someone's been impeached, but when was the last time you ever saw the FBI take a disproven document with no credibility, no validity, no corroboration, take it to a secret court, not tell the court who paid for it, not tell the court that the guy who wrote it had been leaking information to the press? When have you ever, and not just once, 4 stinking times, and the last one Rod Rosenstein signed. So if that's not enough to force the action, as Greg just talked about, contempt or impeachment, you tell me what is. Tell me what is. Because I can't figure. Look, we've been as patient. We started this a year ago in July, asking for documents. We started sending letters last November.
Which documents in particular?
All of them. We got a subpoena with 9 different things. They're not in compliance with three of the elements in that subpoena issued by Bob Goodlatte on March 22nd after we first asked for them in letters.
Are there State Department documents that you guys have wanted that you haven't gotten?
Now we found out more stuff.
That's my sense that something was happening.
Well, actually, just in the last few hours, we found out about that. And so, here's the thing: is why do we have to dig so deep to find out information that should come free-flowing if we're really interested in justice?
And, Greg, let's go back to May when Rosenstein really got his back up. Let's watch.
Any reaction to the news that certain members of the House Freedom Caucus have talked about drafting up articles of impeachment?
I can tell you, there have been people who have been making threats privately and publicly against me for quite some time. And I think they should understand by now the Department of Justice is not going to be extorted.
Extorted. Every time I hear that, I can't believe that's the Deputy Attorney General. Jeff Sessions, bad choice in him.
Yeah, this is a very vindictive man. I was the first to report, actually, that he threatened individuals on the Intelligence Committee. I reported it in early February. How did I report it? I talked to 2 people who were in that meeting. They both felt that he was threatening them to get his hands on their emails and texts and telephone records if they didn't back off this investigation. That's the kind of guy that Rod Rosenstein is. He's presiding over an investigation in which he is a key witness and refuses to disqualify himself, even though it's mandatory. You can't be a prosecutor, a witness, an investigator, and the judge all rolled into one. It's a violation of the regulations and the code of professional conduct for lawyers.
Mark Meadows, before we let you go, what next for this? Within 2 days, you could have a vote on this?
Yeah, literally, hopefully tonight there's a whole lot of discussion going on. I've had conversations with the Speaker's office. We're hopeful that we get some documents that we identified today. But if not, as soon as tomorrow, we could do a privileged motion that would require a vote in 2 days. I think the American people are tired of talk. Just like Jim was talking about, they want action, and it's up to Rod Rosenstein.
Kevin McCarthy with you on this?
I haven't talked to Kevin. I haven't talked to him.
All right, guys.
American people are with us. That's what matters.
Great to have you both on. The Russia Hoax. Get this book. Greg Jarrett did a fantastic job. You want to understand a very complicated story and a total scam, a waste of time for this country. Read Greg's book. Greg, thanks so much. And by the way, the president has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and it's been smashed to pieces. That's the state of affairs. They can't even stand to see his name in marble. The PC fallout coming up. Raymond Arroyo is with us. Don't go away. Apparate. It's time now for our Seen and Unseen segment where we expose what's going on behind the big cultural stories of the day. Okay, President Trump's star now on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was smashed to pieces early this morning, but that may not be the most upsetting fact about the incident. From where we're joined by Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author of the Will Wilder series, Raymond Arroyo. Now, this isn't the first time Trump's star has been defaced.
Sadly, it is not. No, it has been multiple defacements. This star has been defaced more than Cher, okay? Austin Clay, this guy, 24-year-old today, he walks in with a guitar case, opens it, there's a pickaxe inside. He wails on the star. Now, this is nothing original. It happened in October of 2016. We've got video of it. There have been multiple defacements of the star. They've put stickers on it. They've put marks a lot on it. People have, you remember George Lopez a few weeks doing
urinated on it. Thank God we don't have that video.
Urination. We don't have that to share.
It's like a construction site. I mean, it's like
they literally go in and take pictures.
Why do they have it? Why do they have like fluorescent vests? Or those are
here's
people
what this
fixing
shows.
it.
When you step back and look at this,
There
it
they
is
are.
an impulse to destroy, eradicate anything that offends you or that you disagree with. And this idea, this mentality, has slipped into other areas of Hollywood. Well, look at James Gunn. James Gunn is the multi-$100 million director of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. Disney fired him last weekend. They found tweets from 7 and 10 years ago where he made fun of child rape, pedophilia.
Lovely.
It's nasty stuff. But they instantly fired him. Now the Hollywood Reporter wrote a piece. I want to put this full quote up. Here's what they said.
Rehabbing him.
In firing James Bernstein, Disney hurts all of Hollywood. And this is what they said. But so long as there has been no actual criminal activity, there has to be a difference between who a person was and who a person is. And we have to allow for the fact that people can change. Now, the stars of Guardians of the Galaxy have surrounded him. They're arguing.
I
that
saw
he should
Chris
be brought
Pratt
back.
came out. Chris Pratt
Well,
came
he issued a scripture quote. But here's the bottom line. If people can change, why wasn't this same mercy accorded to Roseanne Barr, to Amy Powell, who was head of Paramount Television? She made a racially charged comment about an upcoming show in a black production.
There's a
and they got
double
rid of her
standard.
instantly.
Double standard.
I believe in redemption. I think people are going to make mistakes. But we see this idea that some offenses are instantly excommunicable and they instantly drive you up. You're unemployable.
You can't work ever.
But some offensive speech apparently is not only accepted, but it's encouraged. This is a panel from this weekend's Comic-Con. Actress Zoe Kravitz in the new Harry Potter spin-off Fantastic Beasts was asked this at a panel.
If you could use your magic in the real world for good, what would you do?
Impeach Trump?
Wouldn't it be even better just to apparate him out of existence?
Dan is really good at making up spells. What would be the impeachment spell?
Right. Impeachius Maximus!
So I guess some speech, there were a lot of people at Comic-Con who felt that why did they have to politicize?
Everything is political.
This is a family movie. Why do we have to politicize Harry Potter now?
First of all, let's talk, Comic-Con itself, that's the infantilization of adulthood. I was once in the same city where Comic-Con was.
Yeah.
These are men and women in their 40s and 50s dressed up as like Captain America,
You don't
Wonder
like dress
Woman.
up. You don't
I don't
like
like
the costuming.
costumes. I'm not a costume person. Don't like the costume
Okay.
parties. But these are adult. These are parents, grandparents.
Then you wouldn't have liked Johnny Depp, who got up at the end of that panel you just saw at Comic-Con, and he appeared in costume as the villain he plays in the movie. A character who wants a racially pure wizarding world. Some thought this was a sly slap at Donald Trump.
We who live for freedom, for truth, the moment has come to rise up and take our rightful place in the world.
So, you see, apparently some offenses are acceptable, others are not. I'd just like to get the rule book on what is instantly fireable or not. Amber Heard, Johnny Depp's ex-wife, charged him with abusing her during their marriage in the divorce decree. He was allowed to speak. WB, J.K. Rowling defended him. They've kept him on the film. But other people, they engage in the same behavior. They fire them instantly. Hollywood has to get its story straight. It's selective morality straight.
That Comic-Con thing and Johnny Depp gets me thinking, could I apparate you?
Me?
Wow. This actually...
Now wait, is this what you mean by seen and unseen?
This actually works. This is great. God, if only Nancy Pelosi were here.
Thanks a lot.
Just a joke.
Can you bring me back?
No, you're gone. You're disappeared. Aspirate or apparate? Despite abolish ICE protests sweeping liberal strongholds across the country, the agency is scoring huge wins in the fight against illegal immigrant crime. Details coming up. You might have heard that abolishing ICE has become the cause du jour of the resistance, with anti-ICE protests popping up in progressive cities from Philly to San Francisco. Now, this demonstration at the ICE field office in Portland, Oregon, has been going on nonstop since June 17th. I hope they're taking shower breaks there. God bless them. And at the same time, ICE is doing its job, ensuring that illegals gunning down cops are brought to justice, like this man. 29-year-old Wisner Desmarais, a Haitian national who faces 8 felonies for shooting a Fort Myers, Florida police officer in the head over the weekend. ICE slapped a detainer on Desmarais, who is suspected to be an illegal immigrant. So do you really want to protest this kind of work? This officer is still in very, very serious condition. We should note that, of course, Officer Jobbers is in critical condition tonight, and a great sign that he has begun to breathe on his own, and our prayers are with his family and him. It's just a horrific deal that he's gone through. Joining me for reaction now is John Torres, a former acting director of ICE during the George W. Bush administration, and immigration attorney Alan Orr. Gentlemen, it's tough stuff here. ICE and protests, shut down ICE, reform ICE. Alan, you're a Democrat, you're an immigration attorney. Protesting ICE when ICE is doing, I mean, frankly, God's work on this violent crime stuff. I mean, this officer's family, they're devastated. Legal immigrant, almost killed him. Still not out of the woods yet. Your reaction?
Okay, so first on the specific case of the police officer, this is a APRA story. It really doesn't happen that often. Really,
it doesn't happen that often?
Nope.
Is one police officer not too many? Well, one American dead is not too many?
It's an anomaly. So
it's an anomaly?
Yeah.
If that were, remember, your family, would you call that victim an anomaly?
Absolutely not.
You would not, right. So don't
accident.
Call a police officer an anomaly.
Well,
That's a police officer.
I was calling the situation an anomaly. And actually, when a foreign national is involved in one of these incidents, a foreign national is 10 times less likely to be involved in the crime than anyone else.
Statistic
and the concern around ICE is not with regards to what ICE is doing, but who ICE is concentrating on. And right now, ICE isn't concentrating on those individuals, such as the one that you've talked about, the police case. They're doing low-hanging fruit. They're arresting people who are appearing to court to either testify in a crime, or people who are appearing to their ICE hearings, or people who are just going to work day to day. So ICE really isn't focusing on the level that they're supposed to be doing to protect security nationwide. That's the concern about ICE.
Here's some facts. ICE arrests are rising. You say they're not doing real criminal arrests, and John, you can comment on this. Fiscal year 2018 thus far, 675 criminal arrests versus last year, 139. Seems like a 5-fold increase to me. That's pretty good. Administrative arrests, 984, 172 in 2017. So they're doing both, doing admin arrests, criminal arrests. John, you were doing it. I mean, I get very emotional about this. I've always, as a criminal defense attorney, always suspicious of prosecutors. That's kind of my background. But when a police officer, a child, a woman, domestic abuse, child abuse, human trafficking, the things that we've seen done, I can't countenance. I can't abide by it. Anomaly, not anomaly. We shouldn't have one American brutalized by someone who shouldn't be in here. They shouldn't be here. John.
Laura, I've been seeing this criticism for my entire career. I can think of a number of times where a police officer has been shot, and not only were they shot and killed or seriously wounded, but it was because they were in a community where they were not cooperating with ICE. And the police department ignored an ICE warrant, an immigration detainer, and then let the person walk out of their jail. That same person later on goes and shoots a police officer, and next thing you know, we're getting calls from the city saying, hey, can you come in here and set up cooperation with us? We want to work, especially with the criminals on you. Well, let's talk about those criminals. Last year, ICE arrested almost 33,000 people on criminal charges. They rescued or identified over 500 child victims of predators. They identified or rescued almost 1,000 people related to human trafficking, not talking about even the thousands of gang members that they arrest every year, or the 1 million pounds of illicit narcotics that they seize every year, or the nearly $500 million that they seize in illicit financing. Yep. They do a lot more work than just immigration, and It's sad to me that the fine agents of ICE and Homeland Security investigations get painted with the broad brush. They get accused of being
Well,
Gestapo,
it's very emotional, though, John. You got families, mothers crying, separated from their children. The images are very heart-wrenching for Americans to see. I'm a mother. I don't want to see mom separated. And so that does play on the other side. And I think people are like, oh, ICE, these bad guys, let the family stay together. So that's part of the narrative.
That's not a play, though, right? Because once again, we're talking about the same thoughts that you were talking about with the police officer. Those are families. That's a woman's child. So those are the same.
Right. What about the women? What about the
about.
children in Nigeria who want to be here? And they have to wait and do it the legal way, right? Like, we can play that game all day long, Alan.
Well, it's not a game because they're not here.
Well,
we're talking about people
but
who
they broke our law. The people in Nigeria are applying legally to come here. And they're waiting in line.
Individuals, it's very important to understand that asylum is a legal process. All of those individuals
none of it's
separated.
Fraud. None of it's fraud in your mind.
There may be some fraud involved in it, but right now, those individuals are entering the lawful way, so they require due process. You don't take a child away from a family, then say, let me see if you're able to have the family. You would have to say due process.
Do you think they should be deported together back to their home country, or do you think children should stay behind? I saw that argument made today by the ACLUs that some children should have their cases litigated separately from their parents, which seems to fly in the face of family unification. Do you agree?
I didn't see that specific case, but I don't think that they should have been separated in the first place. There should have been a total process where they came in, were able to file for asylum. They were either released.
Should they get Obamacare in the first month that they're here?
None of those individuals. There's no proof behind the fact that people are getting Obamacare.
Oh, should they? I'm asking you a question. I mean, if we're really going to be compassionate, Obamacare, recreational facilities, all those. I mean, should they get those?
I believe whatever benefits we give to individuals that we haven't should be afforded to them, which we're already doing. It's $40 million so far.
I just want to know, like, how much are you willing to spend on this? Luis Enrique Monroy Bracamontes, 37 years old, 2014, killed 2 California police officers. He laughed when he was being sentenced. He looked into the cameras that were there and he laughed. He knew exactly what he was doing. I remember that case, and it was brutal.
And he said
Shot him in the head.
Killed more. He wants to kill more.
And he said he wanted to kill more. So the idea is an anomaly.
But what's important is that all of those cases, the fact that the person was undocumented is not an inherent part of the crime. It happens all the time that in the U.S., police let people go who later go on to do violent things. It's happened in a couple of police shootings. I mean, school shootings recently. Those facts are the same. So it's not inherent.
No.
The problem with releasing individuals is not inherent to the immigration question.
They shouldn't be in the country in the first place. You do not have a universal right to emigrate to the United States illegally. I know some people believe that, but there just is no universal right. Our framers didn't intend it. Our founders didn't intend it. The Declaration, the Constitution. There is a legal process. And if you don't follow the legal process, you end up in criminal activity. You should be banished from the country, and frankly, you should never be able to come back to this country.
But the problem is that Congress hasn't done anything for 10 years.
Oh, there's laws on the books. There's laws.
But they have enforced these laws, right?
They should do more. Look, there's heartbreaking stories out there around the world. Everybody wants to come here. Not everyone. A lot of people want to come here. Can't bring everyone. Even Bill Clinton, even Obama said that. Can't bring everyone. It's got to be a process. Great conversation. Didn't mean to jump on you there, but it's an issue we all care about. Student or spy. An incredible case of potential espionage by China at Duke University. Right after this. When they say Russia, I say China. That's what I've been saying about the threat posed from China every time the left gets in a tizzy about the former Soviet Union. The latest example, let me tell you about 35-year-old Ruping Liu. Already a billionaire, Mr. Liu is dubbed by the Chinese as the Chinese Elon Musk for his efforts to send people into space and his work on cutting-edge projects like jet-powered surfboards. Sounds like a creative guy. Where's he getting all these ideas? Well, reports that Mr. Liu simply stole intellectual property from one of America's most well-regarded scientists, David Smith of Duke University.
We know that the Chinese have a shopping list of intelligence and technology that they target every year. We know that the research that he took from Duke University was on that collection list, and we know that certain government officials and operatives met with him while he was in the United States.
They came in and took pictures and measurements of all the equipment and actually sent that back to China is what I found.
Oh, take measurements and send it back to China. Joining me now for a reaction is Dean Chang, Senior Research Fellow at Heritage Foundation's Asian Studies Center. This is nothing new, but it still shocks me. He comes to Duke University, lawfully here. Suddenly, he's a big billionaire back home, and he has this cutting-edge technology that's Dr. Smith's.
Yep. Well, Mr. Liu basically said he came to Duke University specifically to work with that professor, that he'd been following his work for years, and he actually apparently brought several of his colleagues over as well to work on that professor's
How is this
project.
allowed? How do we continue to allow this? given how bad we've done, we've done to combat intellectual property theft in the United States?
So here's a couple of statistics to show you just how bad things are. There are 350,000 Chinese students in the United States.
All paying cash.
Yes, that is part of why they are here. Because for the University of California, they get $40,000 for a foreign student, only $13,000 from an in-state student. Is it any surprise that as a result, there are 6 times as many now Chinese students at Berkeley, for example, than there were just 10 years ago?
35% of all foreign students now in American universities are Chinese.
That's right.
Now, if you could devise a government policy on this, what would it look like?
I think there's a couple of things. One of the things, obviously, if you're a professor who is taking government money, particularly money from DARPA or DOD to do research, you obviously need to be very careful of who you accept, even on work and projects that aren't in turn funded by DARPA, because your computer system is potentially.
What's DARPA? What is that?
DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. It's the super high tech secret warriors.
Oh, I love the acronyms in Washington. You hear these no one knows what they mean, but I have to ask you. I don't know what
No, absolutely. But the other thing we need to do is we need to basically promote STEM, science, technology, and engineering and mathematics research in the United States. One of the reasons why we bring in so many foreign grad students is that Americans aren't willing to study STEM, and foreign students are.
Oh, well, the liberal arts. Everyone's doing environmental science. Well, that's important. It's a good, and psychology. What major are you? I'm a psych major. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm majoring in English. Okay. Well, what are you going to do for work? How are you going to make money?
That's a fundamental problem.
Ivanka Trump's doing a big push on STEM for
Yes.
girls, and which I think is really important. She's really spending a lot of time on that, pushing that initiative. That's critical.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, you have professors, for example, at the University of Illinois who are pushing, you know what math is? Math is about grievance. It's about whiteness. And so therefore...
Whiteness?
Yes.
Like a white board, maybe,
No.
writing the equations on that I still don't understand.
So you wind up, foreign students come here wanting to do all the hard math and science and all that. And American students, too many of them are being taught by professors whose attitude is, you know what math is about? Math is about oppression.
Oh, my goodness, scary. Thank you so much. We'll have you on again. This story is not going away. And when we come back, Michael Avenatti is like a squatter who just will not leave your television, ever. And now his hypocrisy is bad enough to shatter it. We'll explain in a moment. Finally tonight, a man who spent the past few months living in a cable news studio has suddenly gotten camera shy. After demanding transparency from President Trump on his alleged relationship with porn star Stormy Daniels, Michael Avenatti somehow convinced a federal judge to block the media from covering his testimony about his law firm's bankruptcy. His firm has defaulted on millions of dollars in debt and has fallen way behind on payroll taxes. So the closing question tonight is, what are you trying to hide, Mikey? Well, we're going to keep searching for the answer. Was he born with a microphone coming out of his chest? I mean, was that a genetic condition? That's all the time we have this evening, but have no fear. I got my wand. Shannon Bream and the Fox News at Night team are up next